my NBA playoff awards. And some of the awards I'm going to have are going to be a little bit different. I just want to give some love to all of these guys in the NBA because there has been great basketball and a lot of guys have been doing their fucking thing. So I just want to say, shout out to all these people, man. Like, shit, they've been, like I said, been fucking phenomenal. I've had a lot of fun watching these games. I'm gonna talk about some stats, but a lot of it really is for me like the eye test. If I'm being honest with you, and let me see this shit. All right, so for the first award, for me, it's the most valuable paint defender, and I wanted to like fucking split this up because I think the other guys, and we'll get into that in a second, they're not getting enough love. And for me, the most valuable, I'm not saying the best, to me, he's the most valuable paint defender. And I think I think maybe we should do this. What is Let's see. Merriam-Webster. So valuable means having monetary value, worth a good price, having desirable or esteemed characteristics or qualities, of great use or service. Right? So we're talking about someone that has great value. The numbers and stuff are one thing, but someone that has great value to their team as a paint defender. And for me, that is none other than Daniel Gafford of the Dallas Mavericks. And there's other guys that have averaged more, blocks and stuff than him, rebounds. Let's go take a look at his numbers real quick, actually. 21 minutes a game, 9.2 points. What is this? 5.9 rebounds, 1.8 blocks. And for me, like, you could almost split this up between him and like what's his name? A Derek Lively. But for me, being the starter, being the physically bigger player, right? He's added so much toughness to this team. He's caused a lot of missed shots because he does a really great job of standing up and staying up and down and not fouling. So, I got to give that to him. On top of that, he's one of the key reasons as to why Luka Doncic has looked like a great defender. The narrative this playoffs is, he's become a great defender. Yeah, Lively was out of that game that they lost. Yeah, he was for sure. But I also think, Richard, that if Lively had to take on that extra responsibility of being the starter, it would be, I think his game, you could say it would look better, but it could also look worse. Like, we don't know, right? But Gafford is just such a big, physical, imposing dude. I think, beyond just the rebounding and the blocks, he's given these guys a toughness, right? He's the one that's had to deal with everyone in the paint. Chet Holmgren, I think, was averaging more blocks. Mobley also was averaging more blocks. But to me, Gafford has been the most valuable because of the things that he does, and also because he covers Luka Doncic's ass. Like, let's be honest. Like, it is like, if it wasn't for him and also Lively, like, obviously those guys, they're covering Luka's ass. It is what it is, bro. Like, that's why he's valuable. He lets the best player be the best player. So moving on to The most valuable perimeter player now. I I had a little bit of a tough time with this one because ironically, yeah, he's a great big, and I didn't even talk about like the lob and all that stuff, right? Like he's been phenomenal. Now for the most valuable perimeter player, you could have gone a couple different directions, right? You could have gone. Why Porzingis? What? Yeah, because Porzingis is more of like a 3-point shooter, and if you just have him, yeah, he's more of like a jump shooter. If you just have him sitting in the trying to dunk the whole game, you're taking out a part of his game. That's also really good. But yes, so most valuable perimeter defender. Like I said, you could have gone a couple different directions. For me, the ones that came to mind are Lou Dort, Drew Holiday, what's his name? Honestly, Derek White and Jaylen Brown have also done a great job of being on-ball defenders and perimeter defenders. But personally, I'm going to have to give it to Drew Holiday. I think he's, 1.3 steals. The numbers don't really say it all. If you watched the McDaniels was also really great. McDaniels was also really great. I just have like for me Richard, like I don't know if you remember when when Iguodala got the MVP award, and I'm not saying he didn't play great. Everyone kept saying he played great defense. He played great defense. He played great defense. LeBron averaged like 35, 15, and fucking like 11 or some shit in that finals. Like, how great of a defense could you have played? Not saying they didn't, but like great players like Luka still got his 30 points a game on Jaden McDaniels this series. Like, McDaniels made it difficult on Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant also averaged 28, 27 in that series. So like, yeah, like for me, Drew Holiday's defense was so good that Tyrese Halliburton faked the calf injury. Like, this motherfucker just sat on the bench. He said, fuck it, I don't want to play against this motherfucker no more, man. Like, he tapped out. But Drew Holiday has had game-winning stops in the playoffs. He checks the best players. He was checking Halliburton. He was checking Nembhard. And, the way Nembhard got off in that game was because Nembhard was going off a million different screens. Like, Drew Holiday has been that dude. Part of the reason why, what's his name? Motherfucker from Miami. Tyler Hero didn't have as much, he played solid, but Drew Holiday was really keeping him at bay. So for me, the most valuable perimeter defender has been Drew Holiday, and we get to see him against Luka Doncic in the series. So that's fucking exciting. And next, I want to talk about the most valuable role player, because I don't think the sixth man really applies that much in the playoffs because they don't really play their bench that much. And it changes from series to series who that X Factor player is. So for me, I just kind of want to give it to a role player. And when I say a role player, like for example, like a Derek White, I think would apply to this instead of a Jaylen Brown, right? A Michael Porter or a Aaron Gordon would apply to this and not a Jamal Murray, right? And so for me, I had a couple names that I had in this, man. I had Gafford, Lively, Derek White. But for me, the name that kept popping up, and you could call me a motherfucking like a homer, but it is what it is. But I'm not gonna lie to you. The most valuable role player would have to be. Here it is. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. Oh, let me do this. The most valuable role player would have to be Josh Hart, right? Like, is this even? I don't even think this is close, right? Like, it's Josh Hart. I mean, everyone's been great. Don't get me wrong. Like, the Dallas Mavericks have been phenomenal. Boston has been great. This guy's averaging 14 and a half. It's white for you. This guy is averaging 14 and a half and 11 and a half rebounds, bro. Derek White has been great. It's just this guy has been so, like, in terms of his numbers. Like, White does a lot of shit that don't show up in the score on the stat sheet also. But like this 14 and a half, 11 and a half rebounds, a steal, almost a block. Like, nah, 4.5 assists. Nah, bro, you are tripping. Like, we could take a look at, let's take a look at, let's take a look at Derek White's stats. Well, I mean, just a role player. No. I'm talking about just like a role player. But like, he was just doing his thing, bro. Like, what did Derek White? What has he been averaging for this playoffs? 17.8, 4.1, 4.6, 0.9. Yeah, I mean, that's also tough. That's also real tough, Richard. You really can't go with either one. But yeah, I think for me it's gotta be one of those two players for me, man. I agree with you. It's gotta be either, I say Josh Hart. I'm just a homer. I'm just a Nick dude. But bro, there was no one else to play. Like, who the fuck else was gonna play? Like, for the most valuable player, and I think this is where what you had just said comes in. You can go Luka. You can even go Tatum. You can go Shea. You can go Jaylen Brown even. But for me, the most valuable player of the playoffs has been Cole Cousins. Like, am I tripping for this, Richard? This guy's got to be the most valuable player of the playoffs, right? He's 39 minutes a game. Where's this motherfucker? 32.4, 7.5 assists. Come on. I mean, you could go anybody, but like, Luka, for me, Luka had kind of he didn't have the best series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Granted, Brunson didn't have a great series towards the end of the Indiana series, and he only played 2 series to Luka's 3. But without Jalen Brunson, I mean, the Knicks don't get a single win in the playoffs.